Hello YouTube, welcome back to another Talking Tech episode. As you can see guys behind me here, I have the set redone. The lighting is finally done. I'd like your feedback and obviously what you guys think of it and yeah, what I could change or what I could improve to make the set even better in future. Now guys, there's been this big brouhaha between Intel and AMD for a very, very long time, and now with the GPU market side of things as well. So what I wanted to do today is specifically cover what's going on with the latest 10th gen with Intel as well as Ryzen, and where we're at in the market and what you should be doing in relation to buying or upgrading at this stage or not in the same respect. So anyway, welcome to the episode. Alrighty guys, let's just get straight into the episode and get started. So basically, Intel's high-end 10th gen desktop processors have hit 14 nanometer limit. What this basically means, guys, is Intel's really hit a brick wall in relation to this nanometer technology and can't move forward with 10 nanometer because they just simply can't get it to work. And, you know, I've already burnt bridges with TSMC as well as Global Foundries in relation to working with them as well. And this is where AMD have capitalized and really run with it with 7 nanometer. So this is Gizmodo's review, so I'll just give it a quick read through. How much can Intel squeeze out of its 14 nanometer architecture? A lot, surprisingly, especially since things didn't go as planned for its 10 nanometer process. After 6 years on the same process and 5 on the same architecture, this latest round of desktop processors still manages to make a few changes, most notably a thinner die STIN, solder thermal interface material. And that's something that they've finally learnt, is to stop using really crappy factory-based thermal paste, like on the 4790Ks, 6700Ks as well. And they're moving into the solder market with AMD, which is obviously getting them that better thermal transfer. At the end of the day, it's still in the 14 nanometer process, and its only best attribute is gaming. It doesn't do anything else very well because it's on 14 nanometer. And once we're talking about 14 nanometer, we are talking about a process which has so many limitations, heat being its main concern, as well as obviously being able to fit as many chips, CCXs as AMD like to call them, onto one PCB. So this is where we're at. Yeah, we're getting higher boost clocks and things like that, but at what cost? Well, it's an additional cost for you to buy the CPU, additional cost of the motherboard, as per usual, which is becoming a bit of a joke. Every time they release a new chip, it's a new board. And it costs a lot of money to replace them. It's not a cheap transition or a cheap upgrade. When we're talking about 5.3 gigahertz on its highest end CPU, which is the 10900K, that's just an improvement of 300 megahertz. And some of these 9900Ks were hitting 5.1, 5.2 already. So it's not like it's an isolated case. Now, don't get me wrong, we haven't even got to AMD yet, and we'll get to there in a second. Now guys, just so you know, I am truly agnostic. I do not take sides. My son has a 4790K. I've got the 3900X. And my daughter will soon have the 1800X, which is my old processor, with my old motherboard. So it doesn't really matter what brand you go for. It matters about what your CPU is going to do for you and what you need it for. Not what all the tech tubers keep telling you, you need to buy this, you need to go with this brand like Seasonic or Corsair. You don't. You need to buy products that are a use case for your specific use case scenario. And this is why I'm going through this today. So moving forward, we get into the whole kind of rinse and repeat of conversation about the Intel chips. So the 10th gen basically has all your usual CPUs, the 900, the 700, the 600, and moving down into your i3s and so on and so forth, which we won't discuss today because if you own an i3, you're not meant to be watching this channel effectively because this is all about overclocking and yeah, getting the most performance for your bang for buck, as well at the same time is buying parts that you need over parts that all tech tubers want to sell you because they're sponsors. I'm here to break all those rules. If I do get sponsors in the future, I certainly won't be shilling for them either. And I'll make that very clear to them on the day we sign paperwork, as I will not be reading off your scripts. I'll be giving honest, true, and fair assessment of the product, whether it is good or not, and that is it. So just a heads up, guys, I'm not going to fall into the same rut these other big guys have. I'm keeping it simple, stupid, and going my own way. So yeah, look, guys, there's really not much going on with Intel. Intel had got too complacent, too greedy, too arrogant, and yeah, they kind of lost focus of what the consumer's needs are. Now, yes, Intel do focus, as I can hear you screaming the other side of the screen already, on the server market, on industry, on the OEMs. Yeah, I get that, right? But at the end of the day, a good business looks after all market segments. Now, your most verbal, your most fanboyish, your most passionate consumers are your gamers and enthusiasts. I myself am an enthusiast, and that's the difference. Is I went with what I went with because of my use case scenario, which we'll get into later. So as it shows here, the i9 9900K has a Geekbench score, which I don't really like. I don't like these scores that a lot of these tech tubers use. I don't see them as true real-world application benchmarks because no one's ever going to do this stuff on their home PC. It's not what we do as consumers. It's what industry want to show us how great these numbers look, but they're not very spectacular. When we're talking about between 33 or 34 rounded off and 37 to 650, that's meant to be a new generation of CPUs. Guys, these are stepping stone pebbles flicked across a creek upgrades. They're nothing to write home about, and they're certainly not worth the cost of investment for a new motherboard as well. So here we go, 1080p Ultra. And guys, this is something that is really starting to irk me in the tech world, in the gaming world, in the benchmarking world, is 1080p. You might as well show players 720p on a chip like this, because you're not going to marry up a 1050 Ti with this CPU, are you? You're going to most probably, at very least, a 1070, 2070 Super, minimum, and a 5700 XT, minimum to compare and pair up and marry with this chip. And 1080p is not that gaming market. It's not that market at all for that level of hardware. It is 1440p is your 1080p for this end of the market. 4K if you want a 2080 Ti and waste a stupid amount of money when the new cards are coming out. It's not a good idea anyway. So anyway, moving forward. Guys, look, Intel's going nowhere quick. The new Tiger Lake chips, I think that's what they're called. They're meant to be some fantastic, great stellar improvement on top of the 10th generation, the 9th generation, and yada yada. It's the usual hype, the usual jargon, the usual crap you hear from manufacturers and paid YouTubers, the shills, to tell you a story about how wonderful this product is because they're getting paid up to $10,000 per episode to spin crap to you. Keep in mind, guys, I'm not here to put down other tech tubers. I'm just here to cut through all the marketing and all the paid crap that they read and the misinformation you get as a consumer. I'm here to just keep it simple, stupid, in the black and white territory of what does and does not work, what is worth your money, what not worth your money. Okay, so just don't think I'm just being, a pessimist and a nasty person about just Intel or just AMD. NVIDIA, you guys are coming up for a big rousing on in the next video. AMD roadmap 2020 and 2021 and beyond. This is from Digital Trends. They are pretty good source of information. I haven't gone with the whole NN Tech and WTF Tech and all of those guys, or Tom's bloody hardware, because they're unreliable, untrustworthy sources. These are industry sources. And at the end of the day, more people are focused on industry tech than the consumer tech forums or websites or YouTubers that do stuff, because you have to have facts, proof, and evidence. You know my channel's about that already. But you have to have evidence, industry-supported evidence, to make your statements on any product you're going to sell. And you're going to have people like these guys who go, hey, yeah, nah, you're over-fluffing it, you're over-hyping it, You're not really telling a very good truth here. So what we'll do is we'll correct that for you. And yeah, there's arguments and threats of lawsuits and all that type of stuff, but that's IT. That's the industry. It's always going to be that way because it's the way it is. It's tech, it's corporate, it's money, it's business. We are the last of their concerns on that roadmap. All right. So the 4000 series mobile processors will be out this year. Desktops probably towards middle to end of next year. So don't get too excited because a lot of YouTubers are speculating and going, oh, no, the 4000 series is coming out this year. Yeah, for mobile chips, not for desktop, not for infrastructure, not for servers, anything of any great importance. It's for mobile chips, for laptops, and not much else. Maybe it will go into the new PlayStation and Xboxes, but at the end of the day, they're not the full desktop CPUs and should not be taken with a grain of salt of what the actual performance is going to be of a desktop CPU compared to what the mobile chips do, because the mobile chips are always cut down, as we know. So, CPU performance for the same power, 47% saving of power. If you are a gamer and you're an enthusiast, do you care about power? I'll leave that in your capable hands to answer. 3600 XT, etc. so forth. The 9900K with the 3900X. Mine's running at 4.4 gigahertz. I'm going to do a full overclocking breakdown video. I'm going to take you through even sub-timings of RAM. I'm going to show you how to overclock your video card effectively to find that balance to get the maximum performance out without having to worry about thermals and things like that. I want to also take you through a lot of stuff that all these YouTubers go on about all the time. I got my RAM to 4600 megahertz. Okay, how did you do that? What's your methodology? Where's the evidence that you've actually got that other than what you've done on a screen? Now, anyone can use video editing software to put overlays and things on. It's very easy to do. Deep fake, that's a big thing now. Don't always trust what tech tubers tell you. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, guys, the 9900K has been beaten out by the 3900X at 4.4 gigahertz. I have proved that myself in my own gaming experiences and my own benchmarks. I would like to also share with you guys my 3D Mark scores to demonstrate evidence that I beat a 9900K without question with my RAM running at 4000 megahertz with stupidly tight timings. 16, 15, 15, 15, 28. So that should give you an idea. Plus, I've even tightened down the sub-timings as well, and I'll share that with you in a separate video. So yeah, Ryzen 5000 2021. So this is what I mean. Intel's coming out with the 10th gen, AMD is coming out with the 4th gen, and next year, by the mid to end of next year, we're going to have the 4000 CPUs roll out. Then we're going to have the same rollout of the 5000 series for mobile processors, which will come out in 2022 for desktop. AMD are just walking at a strong pace. They are not running. They are confident. They are solid. They have the support from TSMC and Global Foundries if they need it to be able to move into the 7 nanometer UV, and then from 7 nanometer UV, which they are already talking about with the 5000 series, 5 nanometer. And we're not talking about 7 plus, we're talking about 7 UV, which is a different version of 7 nanometer in every respect. It's not an improvement on the 7 nanometer architecture. It's a brand new way of doing 7 nanometer architecture itself. So very, very exciting times. When we hit 5 nanometer, guys, we are going to actually look at those 30 to 50 to 60% increases in IPC for real. We are going to look at less power consumption at the same time. We are then going to have to be very, very, very focused on heat. Because as the CCXs get smaller, the more capacitors and transistors that get chucked into these tiny, tiny little CCXs, the more heat generated from a single point of origin. So AIO makers, they're going to have to really look at how to overcome that. Air cooling is going to end as an industry, and that is it. unless you're going with a cheaper, older CPU or just a low-end CPU, you're going to still have air. But when we're talking about enthusiast level and high-end level equipment, we are having to start to look at AIOs as a standard. And even if AIOs can't pull it off, like my Kraken X62, look, honestly, before you go full custom water loop, it is the best cooler out there. And don't listen to what all the other shills say about all these other brands like Fractal Design and Corsair, and they just don't match up. NZXT have got it right. The X63 and the Z63 are beautiful rads. Pretty much the X63 is the X62, just with some minor improvements. No actual thermal improvements though. The Z73 has your little LED screen, which you can do all the fun stuff with, and GIFs and things like that. It does offer a little bit, I think it's about 2 degrees improvement on thermals as well. So, nothing to write home about, and within margin of error, in my opinion. So yes, it doesn't matter if it's Intel, it doesn't matter if it's AMD. We are looking at a precipice between the old Moore's Law generation and a brand new next gen way of making CPUs and making tech. And all of these tech tubers have become so complacent and so lazy in what they do, and they just read the scripts because, it's the same old, same old. In this case, it is. Both of these processors, the 4000 series and the 10th gen, are both stepping stone series of CPUs that are literally a waste of money. Now, you look at the X570 boards, they have PCI Gen 4 support. Does the Z490? No. So, at the end of the day, guys, this is the end of this era. Do not waste your money and get a 4000 series chip from AMD. Wait for the 5000s to come out. I'm sure if you've already got a 3000 series chip, you can wait 18 months, 2 years. You're not going to miss out on anything. Graphics cards, different video for a different day. Intel, I would be very skeptical of really trusting what Intel does with Tiger Lake unless they go to 7 nanometer. If they are still on 14 or even 10 nanometer by Tiger Lake, or 8 nanometer, if you've heard about with the new 3080 Ti with the Samsung VRAM. If you're there, and Big Navi's so much of an unknown at the moment. I don't hold much hope for Big Navi. Prove me wrong, please, AMD. For God's sake, prove me wrong. But I don't trust it. With the 4000 series being a stepping stone, episodic generation, I believe that Big Navi is going to also jump into that kind of same boat to maybe get up to the 3080 speeds, but it won't hit a 3080 Ti again, I don't think. We're looking at a bit of history repeating itself, but there is good news coming in after that when we're talking about, the 5000 series and the totally new way of looking at tech moving forward with 5 nanometer into the future, and that reflecting on GPUs as well. As I said, I'll do that in a different video on a different day. But guys, I just also wanted to kind of demonstrate to you the pricing. One thing I've really noticed is clearly you're not going to get a 10900K in stock at the moment. Intel being Intel, they don't care about stock being out there. They care about it being on the market and, numbers being on TechTubers graphs. They don't really care about their consumers and never have. Not what Intel do. I can't say much more for AMD either, but guys, it's tech. So $549 plus for a board that is suited, right? Properly supported and suited to get the most out of your 10900K for $681.90 more. So these are the best prices I could find on Newegg. And so, take that into account. So you're looking at $549, $550 plus $682. It's over 1,100 and some change, just for a CPU as well as motherboard that you have to buy to work with this new chip. Moving over to 3900X, this is the funny bit, right? you can get a 3900X for $429.99, and this is shipped by Newegg. And you can get one with a motherboard, which I wouldn't say to go with, but you can get it for $662.48. So you are almost halving, if you were to go down that path, you are halving what it costs to get the new CPU from Intel and a new motherboard. Now, but my recommendation, on the other hand, is the 429 plus the best suited board out of all the boards, and that's going to be the Asus Hero. Now, yes, if you've watched any of Builds videos, you've watched a Bowers videos, you've watched a couple of other tech tubers videos who get into the tech, like Gamers Nexus, for example, he has made it clear that the Tai Chi, the X570 Tai Chi, as well as the Aorus, Gigabyte Aorus board, are better board. No, they're not. End of the day, the Hero has a better, stronger VRM set, even though it's less of a VRM set than the Gigabyte. And the Tai Chi is probably a slightly better board, I will say, but to run a 3950X or a 3900X, this board is going to get you all of the overclocking easily that you're going to have trouble with the Tai Chi with. I would not recommend either MSI or Gigabyte for any 3000 series chip above the 3600X. Now, there are tiers within the motherboard manufacturing industry. There's obviously your low to entry, your BioStar, and your dodgy kind of Chinese motherboards. Then you go into your low to mid range, which is MSI and Gigabyte. Then you move into your upper end, which is your MSI Meg, as well as your Aorus. But it's still middle of the road stuff. It's just the best of the middle of the road. If you want true high performance, all the bells and whistles, proper VRMs, proper board design, proper PCB layering, proper audio, proper for a motherboard, you have to go Asus or ASRock. They are the only two motherboard manufacturers in industry which strive for the highest level of quality and performing parts and design layout on their boards, and they always have been, they always will be. MSI, back in the day, MSI used to make really good stuff. Before that, they made really crap stuff. And now MSI have fallen back into making crap stuff again, and Gigabyte was always a budget brand. It's an Australian brand. And it's gone worldwide now, bought out by the Chinese in 1996, I think it was. Long story there. But in a nutshell, guys, okay, Gigabyte and MSI are budget brands, but they advertise to a premium audience. Most tech tubers get given for free RAM, hard drives, motherboards, and most indefinitely, we all know, graphics cards. They all get 2080 Ti's and go, like Paul's Hardware said recently, is this a reasonable build in inverted commas, 2080 Ti? No, it's not. It's not a reasonable build at all. That's an excessive waste of money because you got given the card. You didn't actually earn the money to actually get the card, to appreciate the card, to realise, oh, I'm putting it with a 3600X. Oh, it's a pretty stupid idea. Guys, the tech tubes are so out of touch, and I'm here to begin kind of a revolution to be consumer focused, and the guy at home watching YouTube as well as obviously making YouTube videos and going, hey, that information's wrong. I'm a technician myself. I've worked for Dell, I've worked for HP, I've also worked for cabling companies doing all of the office fit outs and things like that. I've worked with servers, and they're a nightmare at the best of days. They're an absolute freaking headache. Guys, I know what I'm talking about. I do tech, I am Citizen Tech Talk. So if you want great advice or you want to build a computer, don't go to PC Part Picker. Pop off in the comments. Tell me what you're going to use your computer for specifically. I may actually recommend an MSI board. I may recommend a Gigabyte board. Because if you're getting a 3600X or a 3300X, you don't need an Asus board or an ASRock board. That's it. You just don't need it. You just don't. You will need a low to entry level, maybe an Asus board, maybe a Asus Prime, or a MSI mid range board, or even dare I say a Gigabyte board. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, when these tech tubers also do these, overclocking videos, and their CPU only gets to 4.3 gigahertz compared to mine on 4.4 gigahertz for a 3900X. Hi, Jay. Honestly, you're using crap hardware. What do you expect's going to happen? You're not going to get the best out of your chip by using a board you got given for free and got told to sell, right? You've got to marry up your parts with suitable components that go with the parts. You cannot cheap out. If you are going for the mid, the low tier, so a 3700X as well as a 3600X, you can get away with an Aorus board. You can get away with the higher end boards, but you'll get away with a 3700X with an Aorus board or a Meg board. That won't be too much of a trouble for you, or obviously one of Asus's or ASRock's cheaper boards. But you don't need to spend more than that. You don't need the Hero. You don't need the Maximus. You don't need all these other, high-end Tai Chi boards and things like that either. Your CPU just won't utilize all of the use of the motherboard's functionality and pricing. And this is the thing, guys. I'll in a separate video, as I said, I'll do a big breakdown of why I've done what I've done, why I've got what I've got, why I've got 3 monitors, and to explain things to you guys in a way in which helps you think about what your actual use case needs are. And even if you're not on a budget, why waste the money if you're not going to use the hardware for the additional things it can do? Why? Save your money. Wait for the next generation or the generation after that with AMD, especially Intel. But yeah, guys, I just want to give you an idea of the cost involved with upgrading each generation, the minimal IPC improvements. Now, I can bring you up a graph, and you'll see a million other graphs out there about the 10900K being at the top, leading by 12 frames. 4% IPC increase in real world applications. Are you ever going to notice that in a game? No. If you want it for bragging rights, great. Okay, glad you're a millionaire. Hey, chuck a couple of mil my way. I'd love to upgrade this studio to a proper soundproof built-out room. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. If you're an everyday person like myself who works bloody hard for their money and does a lot of research into what they're buying for their use case scenario, to then spend as much time as needed to overclock, to tune, to tweak their hardware to get the bleeding edge out of it, that's what PC building and PC overclocking is about. It's not about just putting something together and pressing a button and having it work. It's not about going using some software like Ryzen Master, or whatever the Intel overclocking stress test benchmark program. Look, if you want to do that, don't do overclocking. You're going to end up literally cooking your chip. Overclocking is done from the BIOS, and it always should be done from the BIOS, because there you can monitor your real-time voltages as well as see what is working, what is not working in real time. And it's much more accessible going to the BIOS by pressing the delete key than ever going into Windows, changing a software protocol, pressing apply, restarting again. It power cycles the computer. It's not good for the other components of the computer either, and it's just not good. BIOS is the only way to overclock. If you do not know how to BIOS overclock, I will be doing a video with that, and I'll be demonstrating all of my timings, including my sub timings, all of my voltages, and all the testing I've been through for a good 3 months, 4 months, about 3 months, until I found my stability with my Ryzen CPU, my stability with my memory controller, as well as stability with the RAM, as well as the other voltages for the board, which go all wacky out of the box. For the CPU pushes your 1.8 to 1.9 if you're not lucky, and blow things up on your board, and including your VRMs. Great stuff, eh? Thanks, Asus, with your viruses. But guys, yeah, we'll get to that. I'll give you a breakdown of the rig. We'll go through everything together, and hopefully it'll make a lot more sense as we move forward. But guys, do not upgrade right now unless you have to. And even if you can upgrade now, there's still the 2700X is still on the market. X470 boards can be found left, right, and center. It's just how hard you look for them. You could get yourself a spectacular deal. RAM prices have come down. SSDs, they're basically throwing them out the door at you. And M.2 SSDs, NVMe SSDs, they're gone down to almost nothing. So now is a great time to get in before the price rush. And the price rush is going to be stock shortages, what's going on in the world, and FOMO, fear of missing out, yeah? And everyone's starting to believe that, these new video cards are going to be, the savior and solution to everything, and don't have to worry about upgrading your CPU. Bring down the price of 2080 Ti's, guys. Just bring them down, right? NVIDIA, God, you're going to get a rousing from me in the next video. Anyway, guys, look, I hope you really enjoyed the episode. This is just a taste of what we're going to get into now. I'm going to be literally your friendly, best tech guy, honest bloke who's going to help you build a PC that you need for you. And somebody is always going to demonstrate what is worth the money, what isn't. What does work, what doesn't work with what. For example, the 3800X, kind of in no man's land between the high-end boards and the upper mid-range boards. That's a discussion we'll have another day if you guys want to talk about that in the comments, because it's a bit of an enigma, the 3800X before the 3900X. And look, guys, one final thing, do not buy an XT Ryzen processor. Do not waste your money. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time. I'll basically continue this on a weekly basis along with my gameplay series. So you'll be getting two videos for the price of one per game, as well as obviously one of these videos moving forward each week, really diving into where the industry's going, cutting out the jargon, keeping it simple, showing you guys all the tech secrets that none of these other YouTubers are ever going to share with you. And yeah, get you guys shopping savvier, smarter, and more educated moving forward. Anyway, guys, as per usual and as per always, peace out. Cheers.